What's going on, everybody? I don't even know if I uploaded the video yet, but I am 3 weeks sober. I need to see if I uploaded that and upload it now. Anyways, y'all, this is just something that I have noticed. Yeah, man, I'm on a spiritual journey. Yes, I am a Christian. Yes, I do believe in God. You know, some people look at it as weird, and I understand why people can see that it's weird. I truly understand why somebody can look at people who are religious and think that they're weirdos. I get it. I'm not a easily convinced person. I went atheist before. Um, I have just studying, just trying to figure it all out. One thing I've noticed about atheists, and this is, and it's the same for religious people. Atheists hate God. Okay? I was about to say that this is the same for religious people, not hating God, but just when people are speaking, how biased they are. And I always feel like if you're trying to learn something, if you're going to learn something that's controversial, there's going to be a bias involved. For example, if you're trying to learn something about the epic poem by Homer, what's it called? What's the epic poem by Homer? I wanted to say the Iliad. There was the Iliad and there was something else. But anyways, if you wanted to discuss something like Edgar Allan Poe, there's no controversy there, right? You could discuss the life of Edgar Allan Poe, and there's not going to be any bias there because no one cares, right? But if you discuss something like religion, racism, homosexuality, politics, there's going to be a bias. I say that to say that you have to kind of be careful when you're trying to learn something. So I always suggest that if you're trying to learn something, study both sides. Because if you're trying to learn about religion and you're learning religion from somebody that's religious, you're only going to get that side of it. If you're trying to study religion, but you're learning from an atheist, you're only going to get that side of it. Okay? So when I studied religion, I studied both sides. I just feel like that's the way to go, right? My studies weren't biased. Right now, I might be a little biased, but my mind is still open, okay? But I'm a Christian, But it takes faith to be a Christian, right? Because it's not like you have God right in front of you. You have to go off signs and you have to go off experiences. And some of these experiences are very well convincing for people like me and others, right? But one thing that I noticed with atheism, and this is probably something that kind of took me away from atheism, how bitter they are against God. And I could see if it was like, if you grew up in a church and you feel like you wasted your time in a church, that's one thing. But not all atheists grew up in church. Some atheists were atheists, they didn't grow up in a religious household. They still have the same hate for God as the person that grew up in church and became atheist. It's still the same hate and disgust. And it's not only atheists, y'all. I'm going to tell you who else has the same disgust for God. These spiritual women. I say spiritual women because, I have one case of a spiritual guy. He does the voodoo or whatever, and he has a hate for Christianity, I guess. But he's the voodoo guy. He always says, oh, well, Christianity is a white man's religion. So I just throw that out. It's like, bro, just go do your homework. He said Jesus was white and the disciples are white. It's like, it's not that his 2,000 years ago wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things. If you really want to find out if Jesus is white, just do your homework, man. That there would have to be a huge conspiracy involving every historian, philosopher, archaeologist. They'd all have to be in on this huge conspiracy, man. Like, it's just, it's just bias. He's probably a little racist. He's probably biased. So that's why he doesn't like Christianity. Okay. Spiritual women. There was this girl I was working with, and I said something about God, and I said something about people sinning. She immediately got like a nasty, disgusting attitude. That isn't your job. She got a nasty attitude out of nowhere. I've noticed this with spiritual women. They hate It's the funny because they say they believe in God, but they hate religion. They hate the rules. That's what it is. They hate the rules. And so now, when I come across somebody that's spiritual, I pay attention. This is why I say my mind makes connections. I pay attention when I see a girl that's spiritual. Even if you're on a dating app, y'all, just look at how a girl dresses, and like on a Facebook dating app. Look how the girl dresses, and you can guess if she's spiritual or religious. 9 times out of 10, if she's very gothic-like, she's probably going to be atheist, or it isn't going to say what her religion is, because she's probably not religious. And if she's very dressed and very sexy, she's probably going to say spiritual. Why is that? Why is it that when I go and look at other atheists, a lot of them are homosexuals? The girl at my job, it makes sense. She's bisexual. She likes women and men. And she's kind of evil herself, talking about she's waiting on her husband to die. She's a little evil. Homosexual men are evil, y'all. They prey on trying to turn straight men gay or bisexual. They get off on that. You can't tell me that's not evil. That's just as evil as a crackhead trying to get somebody else to smoke crack. I look at that as the same amount of evil. So the same way when I look at a girl who says that she's spiritual, you can look at it by how promiscuous she is. A lot of modern Jewish women kind of have a hate for God. They're not even really Jewish, you know. And a lot of these Jewish women, they talking like that spiritual type of talk, and they're promiscuous. My supervisor, for example, highly promiscuous. You know that relationship isn't going to last because she's at work licking her lips when she sees these truck drivers and stuff. Like, she's super thirsty. She hates God. The other day, a Christian song came on, and she got just like that girl who I said was spiritual. When I said something about I fear for people's souls or something like that, Like, sometimes I worry about that, about people's souls, including mine. And that isn't your job. That's why she reacted that way. So this lady who grew up Jewish but is pretty much spiritual. She's pretty much spiritual now, instead of religious. When the church music came on, she got that same nasty attitude. I've noticed it too many times not to notice it now, right? When you see something, you look to see it now. If you see something repeating itself, now you look to see it, right? I look to see it. I see it as all spiritual women. And when it comes to atheists, I look and see. A lot of times it has something to do with promiscuity. A lot of them are just promiscuous. So a lot of times atheists are homosexuals and bisexuals. A lot of atheist men are homosexuals. They are. And even if they aren't homosexuals, I know now to look at, the first thing to look for is promiscuity. So Richard Dawkins, I said there has to be something here. Either he's gay, bisexual, or there's something promiscuous in his past, or something that he's holding on to. I did some research, and he said, this was years ago, Richard Dawkins said that it's immoral for a spouse to try to make another spouse feel bad for cheating. And then when you look in the Bible, it says that if you decide to choose sin over God, God is just going to he's going to throw you to sin. He's going to let the sin consume you. Okay. I know a promiscuous woman who cheated on her boyfriend. I was the guy she cheated on. Let me be honest. She cheated on me. Now, I didn't know she was promiscuous when I met her. I caught feelings for her. People started warning me that she was like a super thought. Okay. I didn't see it. I was ignorant. I was young. It was my first real relationship. She ends up cheating on me. She ends up trying to come back afterwards. And she opened up to me about what she did. She ends up telling me that she hooked up with somebody else, right? That we worked with. We worked together, which was messy to begin with. Don't recommend it. She hooked up with this one guy before she hooked up with the guy that she cheated on me with. And I was like, oh, so you cheated on me with 2 guys. She got pissed off. She said, we didn't cheat. That wasn't cheating. She was in a park getting, I don't know if I can say this. She was in a park getting touched on and her chest licked on. She said it wasn't cheating. I got a homegirl who called me and said, crying almost. It's a girl I've been messed around with before. She's crazy. Over the years, she tried to get me in a relationship with her. I'm like, you gotta be crazy. Like, I've seen you do so many crazy things. You think I'm gonna date you? She called me one day almost in tears. E, why can't I find a man? What is it about me? Can you give me some advice as a man? Can you please give me some advice? I started giving her advice. I said, well, listen, man, there's a couple things I can tell you. Like, you can maybe start trying to be more feminine. You're aggressive, maybe dress a little bit more feminine. I could tell that she got silent then. And then I was like, then you should probably stop like taking the new guy that you're dating, bringing him around these other guys that you're having sex with, like me, or that you've had sex with, telling him that you had sex with these guys and telling him that these are your friends. What in the world do you think that guy is thinking that you're trying to date and you bring him around a bunch of guys and you admit that you had sex with all of them, 3 or 4 different guys, sometimes more than that. She's very promiscuous. She got pissed off when I told her that and hung up the phone. Why is it that girl doesn't know that getting touched on and your breasts licked on in the park is not cheating? Why is it that this girl thinks it's okay to bring a guy that you like around a bunch of other guys that you had sex with? Maybe God threw them to their sins. Maybe they're so engulfed in their sins that they don't see correctly. You tell people that you're trying to stop smoking weed or drinking, you say that it's for God. They think that's the craziest thing they ever heard. Why? Maybe God truly does throw you to your sins. A good example with the Pharaoh and Moses. And God kept telling Moses, you know, whatever I do, his heart is going to remain hardened against me because he is too engulfed in his sins. His sins have taken control. God said, let the sins have you. You can choose me, choose your sins. If you choose your sins, God is going to let those sins take over you. And that's why people are blind. I see this too much with atheists. I see this too much with homosexuals. I see this too much with promiscuous men and women. It's things like this that makes me say, you know, I don't know where I was going with that. That's the end of the video, y'all. I don't even know what the title of this video, but I think that's something to think about.